Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Hello, people, and welcome to the National League. Welcome to Footy Judge Mo. Chelsea without Fofana for the rest of the season. So they called Anselmino, a guy that I bet no one has watched play, to save their season in the defense after shambolic performances in the defense in the last 3 games or the 2 games. Is he the right guy for Chelsea, or should Chelsea fork the money and get a defender now to save their season and be back in the title race? Arsenal are linked. Just, by the way, another 2-minute news while we're doing the countdown. Even Ferguson, but they face competition from Fulham and West Ham. So Arsenal should be able to pull that off from Brighton, of course. Of course, he's linked to them because they just play Brighton tomorrow. That's the news. And Arsenal are about to get a striker or a forward to help. However, Gabriel Jesus is performing. So it's not bad for Arsenal. They play Brighton. Brighton are winless in the last 7 games. Arsenal should, on paper, be able to win that game away from home and close the gap to Liverpool to 3 points before Liverpool play the mighty, the biggest club in the world, Manchester United, at Anfield, of course. That's Sunday. So Liverpool should go with pressure against Manchester United. And Trent Alexander-Arnold, Arne Slot, has said that he is available to play. And is he staying at Liverpool or not? I think he stays until June. And I think actually he signs a contract with Liverpool, actually. That's what I think. I don't think he goes to Real Madrid. That's just my personal opinion, reading the room. I think that is what happened. But listen, if you're watching this now, we're just starting. Let's get to 100 likes right off the bat. Get that like up. Hit that like. Make it lit. And subscribe to the guys. Rory Talks Football. Dan channel, of course, and Tom Nobbins. Rory released the video yesterday. He's going to release a video today, I'm sure. Dan was just with Charlie, 6:30. And Tom is late. As you guys see, Tom is late. It's not our fault. We're just going to blame it on Tom, all of it. How's everyone doing first? New Year's treating you well?
Yeah, really good.
What is your target this year, Rory?
What? For Arsenal?
Not for us. For us is to win the league or the Champions League. What is your target personally?
Oh, just survive. If I can get to 2025, get to 2026 alive, we'll take it. After that, I don't know. 20k on YouTube. That's that. Why not? I'm making videos, by the way, now. So every day,
they're really good ones as well.
Yeah. That's why you turn on the notification bell for Rory as well. So you know when he goes live, when he releases a video, 100%. Then, What's your projection this year?
On social media, just grow the community, speak to more people, do more lives, and just see where it goes. To be honest with you, I don't have a.
Do you look
number
to
in
like
mind.
go to away Chelsea games as well as much as home?
I have done, yeah. I haven't done as many this year, but last one I did was Leicester away.
All right. For me, I want to hit 50K in 2025.
Easy.
And just want to move from America, to be honest, just to go somewhere else. I'm done with America. That is my thing. Listen, where should we start? Chelsea. I think we should start with Chelsea, to be honest. Chelsea. 3 games. You haven't been here since you kind of started dropping points like flies. You dropped 8 points in 3 games, 1 of 9. Title race is over for Chelsea so quickly.
Really
it reminds me of
Pulled a hammy on the
2022,
way,
2023 Man United. Title race, it lasted 3 weeks. It's fantastic.
Yeah. No, we got out the blocks really well, and then the hammy just went like 10 meters in. And we're like, you know, it's like when you hit the first hurdle on the 110-meter hurdles, and you just look at the rest of them and go, "Nah, I don't fancy that. I'm just going to walk around them." DNF. Yeah. Look, it's not great. I didn't see it coming. I really didn't expect us to slip up like we've done. I think we were playing a lot better football. The manager had ultimately put some things right for probably the first 15 games of the season, and then the last 3 have been. Look, they've not been great. They've caused us issues.
What went wrong though? Something went wrong.
I think actually, weirdly enough, the Conference League finishing for us probably has led to this, where I think he felt like he had to rotate in the Premier League, and I think ultimately it's cost him. I think it definitely did against Ipswich. When I saw that team lineup, I thought that is not good enough to beat them in terms of what the names are. But what we've seen from those players in the Prem isn't enough. João Phoenix, massive name, but his output is very minimal in the Prem. I think Madueke's output in 90% of the games that he plays isn't great. And I also think that Jackson is in a really bad patch of form. He almost looks like the player that started last season. And I think him not scoring goals is obviously limiting us. I actually don't believe Maresca's getting the best out of Cole Palmer. If I'm being completely honest, I think he continuously tries to use him in the left side pocket of the 10, and I just don't think you get the best out of him there. I think he's a little bit better if he's on the right and he can move the ball onto his left foot. I don't see him thriving as much as he did last season with Pochettino as his manager. And yeah, look, they're 3 massive results: Fulham, Everton, and Ipswich that don't look that great.
You know, I noticed that. I noticed. Do you guys? I went to SofaScore and I checked the heat map for João Felix and Palmer. Looks exactly the same place, same position.
Yeah, because
on top of each other, which is so strange actually. Because Enzo Fernandez plays to the left as well.
Yeah, but
fans blame Madueke.
And then they try and Madueke. I think what it is with Madueke.
But hold on, you get my point, right? Enzo Fernandez, Cole Palmer, João Felix to the left, and then fans look at Madueke like, "Why didn't you do something?" I'm like,
"Well, I think
like all the creators on the other side."
I'm just getting up Enzo's heat map because I'd be intrigued to see, because for the last few games he's been out towards the right, and I feel like you don't get the best from him there either. I think if you swap Enzo to the left side of the 8, and you play Cole Palmer towards the right-hand side of the pitch, that's where I feel like those two seem to do better. Enzo was putting up some really good numbers, as was Palmer, and I just feel like that seems a little bit more balanced. But Marescaa keeps reverting back to the other way, and I just don't necessarily think it works. I also think that the situation defensively with the right-hand side of our defence is just disastrous at the moment. Dazassi is probably not good enough. I think he ultimately showed that he's got a mistake in his locker, and you just can't have that if you're trying to challenge for the top 4 and title races.
Rory, will Chelsea get dragged into a top 4 race if Man City pick up the form?
Yeah, I actually think we're in it now.
I think they're in it. I think, honestly, the losing Fofana is, for potentially the rest of the season, is massive. It's absolutely, like, he has been fundamental to their defense this season. He is not as good, but as important to Chelsea's defence as Saliba is to Arsenal, as Van de Ven is to Spurs, as Van Dijk is to Liverpool, in terms of the physical attributes that he has, the pace that he has to recover. No one else has that. So if they don't replace that in January, they're going to get dragged back into a top 4 race. I've got no doubt about it. I think
they called this guy Anselmino, whatever his name is. Does anybody know anything about this?
Yeah, a little bit. Only because I watched him when we first signed him. I looked at some minimal stuff on Marescaa. There's not a lot there because basically he'd only played, I think, 10 games of senior football when we signed him. He's so young. And I was just chatting to Charlie now, and Charlie said that he's not fit, he's not ready, he's not available. They need to settle him in first, get him ready, and then they'll make a judgment on whether or not he's going to be part of the squad. So he's not even ready to go.
Why call him back then?
Well, and this is the thing I was saying to Charlie. Why would you call him back when Trevor Chalobah's out on loan? Do they view him as more of a viable option than Trevor Chalobah? I really don't know. Trevor Chalobah might not have a recall option in his contract. I actually believed we needed to act and add a defender with a little bit more experience to this team anyway. I now think we probably need to do that and more.
I'm looking at this Chelsea team, and I looked at the last game, and all I can see is that this defense needs experience. And the Chelsea go and call a 19 years old. Like a 19 years old that hasn't played senior football, that hasn't even trained with Chelsea. And is that Chelsea going back to the ways of like the leadership, the ownership, where like project players, let's get this guy, try to embed him in the team. I think it might hurt them big time if they don't sign a defender, especially without Fofana, as I already said.
Yeah, but I don't necessarily think they've got the ability financially with, I don't know what their PSR situation is, but to go out.
Chelsea always have money.
Yeah, we've cleared
it.
They
do.
They're fine.
Yeah, but you're fine if you don't then incorporate going into. I mean, I don't even know who's available globally, to be honest.
Diallo is probably out for the season. He's probably out for the season.
Yeah, no, he probably is. And I think we'll generate money in January as well, probably allowing us to spend if we view that situation as desperate. But Wesley Fofana's played 34 games for Chelsea since he joined in 3 seasons.
70 million pounds.
Yes, 7. So it's literally 2 million a game. And you cannot rely on him. And ultimately, Rory's right. He was fundamental to Chelsea getting results this season. And
like realistically,
his body isn't reliable.
Realistically, if you want the centre-back to both have experience and the sort of physical attributes that Fofana has to replace Fofana, like I'm thinking about who would even be available for you to go and spend big money on, and I can't really think of anyone.
There are some. Margay.
I
like
Margay.
He doesn't move in the same way that Fofana does. Fofana is recovery pace allows you to play football in a slightly...
Yeah, but Gay, he has the experience to read the game. He's played enough senior games in the league to actually...
I think we have some sort of clause on Mark Gay as well that might get us the deal slightly more cut price. I'm not sure, but I definitely think we've got something in that deal.
Just for that guy who said, someone in the chat saying that Fofana's going to be back in January, Marescaa himself said he's out for a very long time.
Yeah, he actually then got pressed in the press conference and said he could be out for the season. Initially, it was 5 weeks, but the further tests have shown that he's not going to be ready.
What is it? Knee again?
I actually don't know. I think when he went off, he was holding his calf. But I'll be honest, Fofana pulls up in pretty much every game. I'm not being dramatic here. Every single game I watch him, he pulls up. There's always a bit of an issue. He'll play with a knee strap or he'll hobble through the last few minutes. But this time, I just think, look, 3 big injuries since he's been at Chelsea and a leg break at Leicester. I actually don't know whether he ever returns to the top. I don't want to be horrible. I know there's a human being in there, but this might be it because that's so difficult to overcome that and then return to the very top level. We've seen that so many times. So Chelsea have to act if they have.
There is a player available from the other side of London. Jacob Kivior is available. Arsenal wants to offload it.
No, come on, no. We're not. Look,
we double the price for those.
No, it just can't happen.
Jacob Kivior is not bad.
Mo, I'd take Bastoni.
Bastoni would not go to Chelsea, by the way.
Most base change then.
What about Bissek? I would actually have him.
Okay, Bissek would go to Chelsea.
Yeah. And I thought he
And
looked
here's what
very
people
good
don't
against
understand.
Chelsea.
Because people watch some of the Inter games. You know, this guy doesn't even have 50 games of senior football in a top 5 league.
But is that
He
not
wasn't
looks great
even
every time
part
I
of,
see him, though.
guys, he wasn't even part of Inter's plan at all. And then he played that Man City game and he's like, what the fuck? He's so good. Why don't we play him more? And every time we play him, he looks better than Pavard in the right center back. And I'm like, this guy is good. We bought him for nothing. He's so big. He drives the ball very well. I actually think he suits Arsenal to the T. To the T. Actually, the way Arsenal play.
He was great against us as well.
He suits Arsenal to the T.
So he
Actually,
thrived
position based,
against
slow
Arsenal.
football, but can defend deep, drives with the ball. Like he's literally, you look at him like he's gonna look like Saliba in a sense. Like can defend 1-on-1, drives, you know, can score goals as well. He's kind of a mix of Gabriel and Saliba. If he leaves, to me, for Mo, for the good of the kid, Arsenal would suit him very well, in my opinion. Mikel Arteta would develop him very well. I actually don't think he suits Chelsea. For some whatever reason, to be honest. I've been someone who praised Chelsea a lot. For some whatever reason, Chelsea get these youngsters and they put a lot of pressure on them from day one. You have to perform today. Well, every mistake is under the microscope. If there is no pattern on the back at Chelsea, you know what I mean? Look at Madueke, look at Sancho, look at Palmer, look at Joao Felix. Look at even Jackson. There is no pattern on the back. There is no... I think Chelsea fans are just restless people. Just restless people. They don't have the warm feeling at Arsenal with players. Like Arsenal is so patient as fans. And the project shows that 5 years, they still have the patience with the manager, the players. Chelsea don't. If this guy goes to Chelsea and things go wrong, people start saying, sell the guy tomorrow. It's exactly what Chelsea would do. So that's why, for the good of the guy, I don't like him to go to Chelsea because I like the kid.
I think that comes from the last 25 years for Chelsea and how they've been managed and run as a club. That if you didn't fit in and didn't succeed straight away, you were gone. Look at Salah, look at De Bruyne. They didn't even get a sniff because they weren't good enough. But Chelsea still won so many trophies acting in that manner. But yeah, I think Chelsea.
And I get it. It works for you, Dan. I'm not criticizing that approach. It works.
It worked for, I believe it worked for an ownership that we won't see the likes of again at Chelsea. I think the new ownership are going to act in a way where they will give players more time. They will give them more opportunities. They'll have periods in their season where it'll be really bad and it'll be a roller coaster, but eventually they'll let that player develop and we'll sort of see the outcome of what that player could be. I think
they won't. No, they won't.
No, you don't think so? Really?
No, I don't. No, absolutely not.
I think someone like Badashile is a great example that he started really well, dropped off, and they're still given. If he wasn't injured now, he'd be playing.
Forget the ownership, the fans. Fans already want Badashile out.
I think the fans.
I'm telling you, fans.
I think.
Look at the way the fans about to.
I'm telling you. Let me tell you from watching the reactions on X, and which is a lot of Chelsea fans. Some of them that go to games, they are starting to question Colwell as a starter.
Look, I believe that
they don't have impatience for someone, one of their own.
Because I think when you can get away with one Levi Colwell in a defence or one younger player, but when you have a whole defence of younger players, there's just too many mistakes happening for a defence, right? So if you had Levi Colwell playing alongside, for example, Thiago Silva when he was there, or someone, I think I literally listened to Ashley Cole the other day talking about how he came in as a 17-year-old, 18-year-old to play alongside Tony Adams. Colwell's rubbish. What? No, look, there's a difference between rubbish.
Well, I said nothing.
Experience. No, I don't believe he's rubbish, actually. I just think he's still too inexperienced. He makes some rash decisions. Sometimes he can be lazy and lackadaisical on the ball, and it causes us issues. But you can get away with that if you've got an experienced player in his ear all game, telling him what to do at certain times so he can learn. And then he could be the legs for that more experienced player. Look, we don't have that situation right now. You've got Disasi giving away the ball. You've got Tosin giving away the ball. You've got a keeper giving away the ball. You've got Levi Colwell giving away the ball. You never know which one's going to make a mistake at what time. So that's the issue Chelsea have got right now, is that they need to remove the amount of individual errors that the defence has got. I've been saying it all season, And in the last few games, we've not been able to outscore our defense. Everyone kept saying to me, oh, it's normal for a team challenging for the title to outperform their XG in terms of how many they concede. Now, a few weeks down the line, Chelsea are now conceding goals and not outscoring them.
By the way, Fabrizio tweeted that unfortunately the risk Wesley Fofana could be out for an entire season. It's not even a long time. He literally said that word entire season. Like, it is not, he's out for a long time. So there is a risk Wesley Fofana could be out for the entire season, which is...
I feel really sorry for him, actually, because like he just hasn't had a chance at Chelsea, and he's had so many injuries and there was so much potential there. He must be really struggling.
Think about it. I actually don't think Fofana is like a great defender, just me.
I'm not
I don't
sure
think I've seen
because
him enough to know, to be honest.
you know when he first came to the Premier
No, I
League. at
did,
Leicester-
Rory. I think Wesley Fofana needs a lot of experience. The problem is he's not that young. He's rash. And
He's
he
not that young
cost
anymore,
Chelsea
no.
a lot. He cost Chelsea a lot of money. And also, some of the decisions he made in the beginning of the season led to chances against Chelsea because he's rash in his tackles. He goes to the midfield. You remember me and you, Dan, spoke about this. Him stepping out of position, trying to press someone in the midfield, leaves a hole behind him.
Yeah.
And that cannot happen with Colwell. You can have that guy if you have a Saliba. You can have that guy if you have a Bastoni at 26 years old, which is Bastoni even is not that leadership.
I remember when, didn't you sign him like after the start of the season? And he'd already...
That's 2 years ago, Rory. That's 2022.
He'd already played for Leicester. I think,
so
like
so
a
I'm
game.
fairly sure. Yeah, I'm fairly sure it was against Arsenal. I'm fairly sure right before he moved to Chelsea, he played against Arsenal at the Emirates. And I remember watching him and thinking, like, he's a decent defender, but he's not one of the most expensive defenders ever, which is what he ended up going for. Obviously, then we've not really seen him all that. Well, we didn't see him for a whole season then. I think he got in fact, maybe he got injured against Arsenal.
Yeah, I think he did. I was going to say, I think we signed him injured. That rings a bell because I don't remember him.
Yeah, I think he got injured in that game.
I'm not his biggest fan anyway. Like, to me, I'm looking at this Chelsea team, and I think Fofana was a weak link because of Colwell next to him. You get my point?
Yeah,
Like,
they probably needed one more in between them.
Exactly. You need the other guy that would lead even Colwell or Fofana.
Fofana, the thing with Fofana is for me is the same as what someone like Kyle Walker has, is because of the pace that they have at their disposal, that they can actually lack the defensive attributes that a slower person might need, or the mental reading of a game, because their pace allows them to recover. I think Van der Ven sort of falls into that a little bit as well. I've seen him be a little bit rash at times, but his pace gets him back in the right area.
Yeah.
But ultimately, their body can't actually cope with it. The recovery sprints just become too much. Whereas someone like Thiago Silva was very quick, only like 5'10", but read the game so well, had such a good understanding of it that he never had to put himself in the same sort of positions that Wesley Fofana did. I remember that conversation, Mo. It was like Fofana was stepping into the midfield and he'd turn and be so slow on the turn because he was just so unaware of what the game was doing around him. You need someone in his ear. He's not played enough games for his age. When he first came to Leicester, unbelievable, by the way. Then he got the leg break, and I don't think he's ever been the same since.
Yeah, but the problem is Anselmino is not going to help him at Chelsea, to be honest.
He's not. Not right now. You know, the next 5 years, you might see him. Well, I don't know. 5 years, he might be the same age.
When
as
Chelsea
Levi
talk
Colwill
about
now.
5 years, it's just kind of laughable, to be honest.
You know,
5
like
years.
Will, how old is he? 17, 18. Levi Colwill,
He's 19 years old.
Okay, so what? He'll be 24, so he could be only just developing as a centre back. You know, like Levi Colwill is 21, 22. You might not see the best of him for another 7, 8 years. Like, it could take that long. It could take 5. But
Oh,
you know,
Chelsea fans aren't going to give him 7 or 8 years. They better give him 7 or 8
just
months.
don't know. But
No one is giving him that longer than you know that.
I know that, but
No one.
a 21-year-old centre back, it's very rare that a 21-year-old centre back is good enough to lead the line for a top level Premier League team. It's very rare. That's why someone like Saliba.
What I don't understand is
that's why
why
Saliba
this
was so rare,
ownership,
yeah.
why this ownership is so reluctant to sign a 26, 27 years old defender. Why?
I genuinely think it's
Because
down
there's
to
no-
financial.
Because they can't sell him on for profit.
Yeah, exactly, Rory. I think that's
Bro,
what it
they
is now.
have an opportunity now. to put themselves, to cement their feet in this top 3 thing in the Premier League, guarantee Champions League football next season, maybe challenge next season. You just need that one signing of a defender. Forget the defender. Because I think Chelsea create enough chances. That wins will come. I believe against Ipswich, if Chelsea didn't concede these 2 horrific goals, you'd have won the game, even 1-0. You'd have won the game.
I don't know if we would have scored, Mo. I felt
no, you
like
created 2 clear. You had 2-3 clear-cut chances.
Yeah, but I just don't think. I completely agree with you. I actually think the football we played at times was really good against Ipswich. We had over 70% possession. I just think we're in a moment now where our striker and our main people we rely on to score goals are not in a purple patch. They're not scoring goals, and that's where I said.
But the goals will come down. The longer it stays 0-0, Arsenal, we learned that from Arsenal. The longer it stays 0-0, the goal would have come to Chelsea. Ipswich would not have been able to hold for 90 minutes. You hit the post twice. Jackson had a 1-on-1. It wasn't offside. The chance will come. The problem, it happens when you're chasing the game and your defense is leaking and your defense is wide open. They had 9 shots on you. And that is unacceptable for a 70% chance position, by the way. You cannot have 70% ball position and concede 9 shots and 2 clear-cut chances. That is unacceptable. 70% position means you allow 1 or 2 counter-attacks at most. At most. Otherwise, your defenders should be able to deal with it. Arsenal do this. Man City do this. But Chelsea, you have 70% position, but you allow the opposition like 5 chances with like 2-on-2, 3-on-3. That is too many. Your defenders need to read the game more.
Yeah,
and that comes with experience.
I think that's been the story for the majority of the season, but someone like Wesley Fofana has allowed Chelsea to cope with those attacking transitions from the other team, those counter-attacks. He's capable of breaking them down or sort of delaying them, if you like, that we then get players back.
It's the stats that always come out about Caicedo, like the amount of but a lot of them are loaded just on like raw numbers of tackles, interceptions, and stuff like that. And it's like it's great for Caicedo, but actually it's a signal that Caicedo is having to do far more work than you actually want your 6 to be doing defensively. And again, it's like how long can he sustain covering that over the course of the season?
Well, and people will hate me for this because they just seem to hate the name I'm about to say, but that's why at the end of last season, Conor Gallagher ended up being so helpful to Caicedo because he was happy to put in the defensive sprints that someone like Enzo Fernandez isn't willing to do, isn't capable of doing. Someone like Conor Gallagher could go box to box and help in that aspect. Now, quality-wise, probably not good enough, but sometimes you have to have games where you lack a bit of quality, but you win the fight on the pitch and you nick that game 1-0 or, and I'm not saying Conor Gallagher's the be all and end all, but that is why Chelsea ended up moving up the season because Caicedo was in the same stage last season where he was dealing with so many opposition counter-attacks and Enzo Fernandez wasn't helping him. Eventually, Poch decided to put Gallagher and him closer together towards the end of the season. We got more results. But at the same time, when you have Gallagher on the pitch, we lacked offensively. So it's difficult. But
we spoke about this. That it doesn't seem like it works. We spoke about it on Straight Facts with Terry and the guys, with Don as well. It doesn't look like it works against a good transition-based team. The Fulhams, the Ipswich, Enzo Fernandez, Cole Palmer and Caicedo. Caicedo's left on an island by himself, and your defenders are not helping him because they're not good enough to stop the opposition. And it's on Enzo Marescaa to find a solution for this.
Well, I think that's why Cucurella did so well when he was inverting, because it gave Caicedo the extra body as well. But in the last few games, we've gone away from that. So look, people are saying Leagye is the missing player. I actually think Maresca's said so much about finding a balance that I don't think he's found a balance, to be honest with you, in the team.
The only balance happened. Lavia going to be back, and I think the balance is going to happen when Caicedo plays right back, inverts. That is the balance, because now you have 2 bodies in the midfield that can tackle.
Then against Spurs, we saw how that just doesn't work. We saw how that just didn't work. Potentially that's an option, but against Spurs on that left-hand side, they absolutely caused Caicedo like an unbelievable amount of issues, to be honest with you. I actually think we need to have this whole insistence on Marescaa trying to always invert a fullback. I actually just don't think it's necessary in every single game.
That means Enzo Fernandez has to be dropped. Or
Look,
Cole Palmer
and
play
do you know
right
what?
wing.
If he is dropped, I have no issue with that. If he's causing an issue with the balance or the reason we're not getting results, I think personally he's probably had a better season than he's had for Chelsea so far. But if he's an issue to the balance and we're not getting results, then that's an issue.
Oh, but I wanted just to say something about this. And Tyler, guys, W's in the chat for Tyler for dropping the 80 guy. Thank you, Tyler, for supporting the channel. What a donation. Appreciate you so much, Tyler, for the support. Even without saying a word, just supporting the channel. Big up, Tyler, for that. Big up for the love. Happy New Year to you. Thank you so much, guys. Appreciate you. But also, we have over 400 people. And we're only on 100 likes. 200 likes will help the show massively, guys. It will actually help get more people to watch and get the channel. And if I'm actually now in 28,800, so I'm really on the done. Oh my god, Enzo hasn't been the echelon. He's been one of our most, which is I agree with Don. Don, hear me out. We agree. I actually think Enzo Fernandez has provided a lot for Chelsea. The problem is it is on Enzo Marescaa to find the solution to make that balance work. Defensive transition, not offensive. Offensive, look fantastic. Me and Don spoke about it on the football terrace. Looks phenomenal. They move the ball, intricate passing between them. Palmer, Enzo, Caicedo, great. Okay. And I said that, and I want to let Rory or Dan talk about this. Chelsea have a lot of risk takers. Palmer is a risk taker. Jackson's a risk taker. Madueke is a risk taker. Joao Felix is a risk taker. Enzo Fernandez is a risk taker. Right? That means they're suspect to getting the wrong pass out. Transition. Enzo Fernandez can defend. Palmer can defend. Caicedo, and I said that to Don. And I want to hear your opinion about this. And people in the chat. If Caicedo doesn't do the tackle, defense exposed. Done. You're out. You're out. You're out there. You're bare. You're bare. Your defense is facing the guys coming at them, like what happened with the Murray Hutchinson with the lap. If Caicedo doesn't do the tackle, that is a problem. And it's on the manager to find the solution for it. By the way, Arsenal, without Partey and without Rice there, you'll face the same problem. That's why he always insists on playing one.
That's why Cucurella inverted has been so beneficial to Caicedo in that role. 100%. That's what has helped so much. So for me, I think there's an issue where if Cucurella is the man that inverts, when obviously Leagye is not in the team, the right side of the defence, that then becomes a major issue if it's Disasi playing there. I think that's where Chelsea have to do better for me. We need someone there that's of a level above Disasi. If Tosin and Fofana,
you know, Ziad said what? Ziad said, why doesn't he play, instead of playing Joao Felix on the left and have Joao Felix come inside the pitch, right? Why doesn't he play Palmer again on the right side? Have Cole Palmer come inside the pitch and have a traditional right back like Malagos to do the overlap and solve the problem and play three midfielders. So Palmer will act like a Joao Felix on the left, but from the right side. That solves the problem.
Oh, I completely agree. I've said that literally since the day we started, and I think that allows you to add extra goals into the team with Nkunku playing in his preferred position. I've said that, but I just don't believe there's a want from. Yeah, I don't believe there's a want from the sporting directors to allow that to happen. I don't believe Marescaa views that as a system that works for his ideology, and I think that's why we're not seeing it.
Why?
Because that's how he sees football, Mo. He doesn't. Marescaa wants his wingers to be touchline wingers. He doesn't want his fullbacks.
No, but he played Joao Felix on the left, Dan. But you're okay. Sorry, excuse me. I completely disagree with you because he plays Joao Felix on the left as a winger, and he allows him to come inside the pitch. That means because he doesn't like the touch.
I don't think he does.
That proves my point that he doesn't like the touchline winger to be on the line because Joao Felix plays as a left winger and comes inside.
Yeah, but once in a blue moon, more than likely he'll play Sancho and Neto or Madueke, and they'll be the players that are on the touchline. And I think that's his ideology, and ultimately, it's been getting him results. This is what I was saying at the start of the show. As soon as he's had to start rotating in the Premier League, I don't think he's found the balance with the squad rotations. If you look at Cucurella's heat map from the game against Ipswich, it's pretty much pinned on the left-hand side. Yeah, and he's playing like really narrow on that left.
Yeah, but because he doesn't have a winger. Because Joao Felix was the winger.
Because he used Joao
Why
Felix,
can't he do the other side as well? That's what I don't understand. The problem with me, some managers, and I'm not claiming that I'm better than Enzo or whatever, Marescaa or Arteta or anybody, that sometimes we see things and it looks like it's very obvious, but the managers won't do them. And I'm like, this is very obvious thing. You're being cut in the middle. Why don't you just fix it? Play a third midfield. I don't know who, but just play somebody.
Because I think I absolutely hear what you're saying, Mo. But I think Marescaa has his own ideologies that are preventing him from trying that sort of system. I just think he is. For 10 minutes, we saw Nkunku play in the role that he would say was his preference, and he got subbed off 10 minutes later for Sancho to come on and play a more sort of touchline winger role than Nkunku was playing, and then it allowed Cucurella to not obviously push on as much as he was on the left-hand side and invert.
Sometimes I just think managers get found out. I'm not saying Maresca's being found out, but Ange Postecoglou came in last season, first 10, 12 games, people hadn't really figured out what he was doing, and then teams figured it out. And as time has gone on, yeah, they've had injuries and stuff, but they've never looked anything like the first 10 games of last season since, because teams have adapted to it. I think with Marescaa, you saw it at Leicester in the Championship last season. First half of the season, they blew teams away. Second half, okay, they declined a bit. They got themselves in trouble. They got out of it. But even then, the second time that each of those teams played against Leicester, they fared better than the first time. And I do think to an extent, if Marescaa can't adapt, Premier League managers will start figuring him out. And yeah, there are issues that Chelsea have got, but I still also think we were saying on here, weren't we, a couple of months ago, teams were setting up against Chelsea and we're going, why have you set up like that? Like, you've played into Chelsea's hands.
Yeah, Brighton.
Yeah, we're not seeing teams do that anymore. And so I do think Maresca's got to figure that out.
I refuse to throw the white flag yet on Enzo Maresca because
I'm not
had
saying he can't.
a very good game.
I'm not either. I'm just saying it's a slight concern.
I think Marescaa has multiple ways of playing and finding different balances in his team, but all around one ideology. And I think that's the issue, right? Is that means that he won't be as pragmatic as, say, an Arne Slot might be in order to guarantee getting the result. I think we saw that against Fulham. There was an obvious overlap from Anthony Robertson in the second half and a Iwobi doubling up there that caused Neto a huge amount of issues, caused Gusto a huge amount of issues, and it ultimately led to Fulham winning the game. And Marescaa was more than happy for Neto to be doing that role.
Ziyad fucking ripped into him after the game.
Yeah, do you know what? The Fulham game was really bad. And then I think against...
I've never seen Ziyad so upset with the manager like this.
Do you know what? I don't blame him because I think it was so obvious for a more pragmatic manager to take Neto out of that situation, deploy an extra centre-back, move Gusto out to be the right wing-back to deal with Anthony Robertson's natural pace. Someone would deal with Iwobi, push him right up onto the offensive line. And then you have someone beyond that sort of push-up from Fulham to use as an outlet. It didn't happen. We lost that game for that reason. And I think then against Ipswich, we arguably were better. We controlled the game more than we did against Fulham.
Mm-hmm.
But we just didn't have a goal threat. I feel like this is where you go back to the discussion about whether or not, if Jackson's going to be like this, is he good enough?
Bro, I don't want to sound like a flip-flop for Chelsea, but if Jackson goes back to the form that they're getting last season, Chelsea need desperately to sign a striker.
Yeah, then you look Osman again.
Before we move to Arsenal, okay, segue is good segue, but before we move to Arsenal, if Marescaa doesn't make top four, is there a conversation?
Yeah.
What? Explain.
There has to be.
Explain.
Well, so as it stands, I tweeted this and Chelsea fans didn't take it.
Really? I'm putting the tweet up. Where is it?
It was a few days ago, actually, but I'm still getting abuse from it. But ultimately, the tweet was, Maresca's first 19 games in the Premier League are worse than Pochettino's final 19 games.
I saw that.
So Pochettino's second half of last season was better than Maresca's first half of this season. And people go, oh, what? You've got to compare Pochettino's first half of the season to Maresca's first half of the season. You don't have to do that because Pochettino inherited a far worse situation in terms of a lot of new players. He was the one that developed players like Jackson and Enzo and Palmer that we saw do better. So I do think there has to be a question because it's not even just about whether Marescaa can match Pochettino. You sacked Pochettino to bring in someone that could do better than Pochettino. And right now, factually, he's not done better. Like, you might say, well, he's playing better football, fine. But, you know, he's got to get the point. So, no, I do think there's a conversation to be had. If they end up not getting top four, was it worth sacking Pochettino, who was undoubtedly building something? You might not have liked what he was building, but it was effective, at least at the end of the season. People say stop cherry picking one number. It's not cherry picking one number. It's half of a season.
Yeah, I do agree, Roy, with what you're saying in the sense that obviously if you look at the numbers and the points and how it adds up, obviously there's not much of an improvement. I think where we are in the table, there's an obvious improvement because the form guide might suggest otherwise, actually. I'm not too sure. But I think we'd probably still, to the fact that we were second and potentially talking about a title race, I don't think even in the form guide we would have been that close to the first team in the league. I also think that the change in football is evident. I think Pochettino was asking this Chelsea team to play in a way that just didn't suit the majority of players that we had. It suited some players. I think that's why players like Conor Gallagher thrived. I think that's why Cole Palmer as an individual absolutely thrived. But then a number of other players really didn't. Casado didn't really thrive in that system. Enzo Fernandez never got the best out of him. Maresca's got the best out of more players. I think Pochettino ultimately found a balance at the end of last season, but it took 20 games too long. And I think the writing was on the wall. I think the way he viewed the squad and viewed certain players as valuable assets and the board didn't was always going to be the end. So Chelsea had to get someone in that they felt suited the squad and the younger players more. I said at the beginning of the season, as soon as you sack Pochettino, you have to do better. When you hire a championship manager, I don't think a manager that comes from the championship with not much experience, right? I don't think I don't think you can expect too much from him. So I would say that fifth would be an improvement, and it's the most minimal improvement you could make. And I said that at the beginning of the season. A lot of people said, no, Chelsea have to get top four. Off of how good I've seen this team look at certain points this season, I'd probably say if he doesn't get top four, it would be a disappointment because actually this team and the players that are there are probably better than fifth in the Premier League, to be honest with you. But defensively now, with the issue of Fofana, if we don't replace him in January, we're going to be in a battle for top four, I think, because our defense will be bad.
See, look, Chelsea fans getting angry at me again for this, but they don't want. I think they don't want to acknowledge a reality that is there. Because okay, you say, well, you've got to compare Pochettino to Maresca's first 90 games. Okay,
No, that's not fair.
Pochettino's second half of the season was 3 points better than Maresca's first half of the season. Do you, as a Chelsea fan, think the second half of this season you'll get 3 more points than you got in the first half of the season? And I think if
it's a question for Dan, not me, bro.
Yeah, I think the answer to that for most people would be no. Are Chelsea going to be better in the second half of the season than they were in the first half of the season?
Yeah,
yes.
I think we should be.
Yes.
As long as...
I don't think they will.
Yes, Rory, why not? Hold on, then. Why not?
Why won't Chelsea be better in the second half?
Yeah, why not? Because I said yes, you said no. Why not?
Because they've to an extent been found out. You're
just assuming this. You're assuming this is an assumption.
I think Maresca has caused himself more problems than other managers have. I think Marco Silva caused Maresca an issue. I think wing backs caused Maresca an issue. But I actually think at points Maresca has caused himself an issue of playing players out of position, trusting Nkunku to play as a 9, trusting Disasi as a right back, playing Gusto as an inverted 10 rather than as an overlapping right back. They're issues that he's creating himself. It's not someone else finding it out. If he doesn't learn from the issues he's making himself, then there's a cause for concern. That's exactly the same as what Pochettino was doing. He wasn't learning from the mistakes he was making as a manager. So for me, I don't know if we've been found out. I think certain teams have caused Chelsea some real issues, but I also think at times Maresca's caused more issues than other managers have for himself.
I know that you see Don's question, Rory.
Where?
I know that you saw it.
Yeah. No. What was it?
Don, put it again. Oh, there you go.
Yeah, what's my point? I don't get it. No, I'm not necessarily saying Poch is better than Maresca. What I'm saying is, did you really need to sack Poch?
Yeah. Yes, Rory. Because of where that relationship had got to and how long it took Poch to get to the stage that he got to.
But if you don't get top 4...
Before you guys go, by the way, guys, I don't clip anyone, guys. I actually don't have a clips channel. I don't have a shorts guy. It's just a conversation. I promise you this. Everyone that comes on my channel know that I don't clip people. The last video I clipped someone was a year ago. So just make that.
Yeah,
David,
but I'll happily just come back to this at the end of the season if Chelsea haven't been better in the second half than the first half, because I don't think they will.
Look, Rory, if a manager single-handedly playing players out of possession and making his own mistakes causes Chelsea to not be in a race for the in a race for the title when they're possibly good enough to do that, or in a battle for the top four, if the manager causes that when we've seen the ability that these players have, then it's on the manager. If the manager has the system right and the players aren't good enough, like Jackson forgets to score for the rest of the season, but the system looks right and it's obvious that we just need a better striker, then I don't think it's a sackable offence. I think Poch got to the point during that season where he played so many players out of position, he made so many mistakes that the relationship and the trust was gone.
But don't you think that is happening now?
No, not
Ziad.
yet.
If you miss out on top four,
hold on. Let me put the argument.
Go on then.
Back. You can counter back. You, Charlie, sometimes Nina, a lot of Chelsea people that I work with, Ahmed, Winter Surfers, they say, I don't want to forget any names. Well, why doesn't he change Palmer to the right? Why is Disasi right back? Why doesn't Kukurea inverting? Why is Malagusto inverting? Why is Joao Felix? Why is this and that? That is literally saying, without saying, oh, well, he's playing people in the wrong positions. Isn't that the same thing?
Yes, Mo. Yes, he is. And the issue was that Poch did it for so long, and I mean like ages, without realizing his mistakes. Maresca's done it in a couple of games, and then he changed the next game, and it'll work. And then we'd get a win, and we'd get a good result. And then
he moved back.
And sometimes he's moved back, which is, for me, that's the bit I cannot understand. I cannot understand. For me, Cole Palmer absolutely thrives on the right-hand side of the 10 in that pocket. And for a few games, he decides Palmer should play on the left-hand side of the 10 pocket. And I don't think you get the best out of him. And there's some weird tweaks that I just think maybe he overthinks things a little bit too much. And do you know who did that? Ranieri. And that's why he was called the Tinker Man, because he just tinkered a little bit too much. And that ultimately cost Chelsea against Monaco years ago. It's cost Ranieri his whole career. He obviously ended up getting a lot of success eventually. But Maresca's actually following Ranieri's footsteps as well, Leicester and Chelsea.
But I actually think it's overreaction. However, if you do the same mistake 2 games in a row, 3 games in a row, I'm going to start questioning your decision making, which is what I'm doing now with Maresca.
If it's costing you the result.
It did cost you 8 points. 8 points that should be in your pocket.
This is
8
what I'm
points.
But they're not all. It's not all the same mistake.
Maresca made me look like a fool. I said by the Brighton game, Chelsea will have a bigger gap than what they had ahead of Arsenal. But here we are.
But Mo, the reason we lost against Fulham isn't the same reason we lost against Ipswich. The reason
but it's a different mistake.
The reason we drew against Ipswich, against Everton, isn't the same reason we lost the next 2 games. They're different mistakes that he's caused himself by rotating it.
Marco Silva outmanaged Maresca because he's
a
better manager.
100%.
McKenna and Deitch just played Maresca against his own weakness. I think that was the difference.
Yeah, I think Deitch did. The conditions were awful. If you picked a game for that Chelsea squad to just be its absolute weakness, its kryptonite, I think that's the Everton game, 100%. I think since Jackson scored his goal against Villa, he's been massively off form. And I just think he's leading to a lot of breakdowns in possession, a lot of breakdown in play. His hold-up play's not been great. His shooting looks woeful. He looks back to the point when John Obi Mikel publicly called him out and said he's not good enough, he needs to score more goals. He looks back at that point, and if he stays like that or that creeps into his game more, he's not good enough to lead the line for Chelsea, unfortunately. I thought he'd left that behind, and I thought we were seeing an improvement of Jackson. The fact that he's gone back to that, that's concerning for me, because that's regression rather than progression. And I just think that the Ipswich game, we played very well. At times, we played good football. We had 70% of the ball. We controlled the game, but our attacking output didn't allow us to control the outcome of the game. Felix.
Let me do a couple of these super chats. For
Players like
big
that
up
in
Mo
Central
Ray, the United fan from Terry Channel. Big up Ray. Thank you so much for the super chat. Really appreciate you, Ray. Thank you so much. Kingsley saying, how about play Reece as centre back? No more right back.
Can we rely? Look, Kingsley, we all know how good Reece is. Can we rely on him though? I just
I
don't
don't think
know.
he's a centre
Also,
back.
one of his biggest assets is what he offers going forward, which he can't do from centre back.
Yeah,
Kingsley,
and his
I don't
body,
think
his
that
body
works.
doesn't let him do it anymore, Rory. Like he
No.
cannot be as
And,
dynamic
and
as
he's what? How tall is he? Like 5'10"?
Yeah. He's done okay
Which he
at
can
centre
get
back.
away with, but
No, I don't think
But
he
if
can be a
you
centre back.
okay, hear me out on this centre back thing with
In a
Reece.
back four, it's impossible.
If Reece, no, it's like the back three, isn't it? And Cucurella would invert. and he
Right back.
plays-
So
Yeah,
right back. Yeah.
You know, like the Disassi role. It's literally the Disassi role because the
Right back,
natural Reece James right back role is just not the same as the centre back role that Disassi's currently playing in. I played against Ipswich, but that role for Reece, for me, is just as diabolical as him playing right wing back. Because if you think of Wesley Fofana in that role, we're talking about how many recovery sprints Wesley Fofana had to make. His hamstring's gone. Reece James has worse hamstrings than Wesley Fofana. Reece James in the last 3 seasons has played 30 games, 4 less than Wesley Fofana. So you cannot rely on these players. Lavia, how many games has he missed in the season and a half that he's been in now? You can't rely on these players as good as their talent is. For me, I'd rather have players
I
in the
thought
team.
Pochettino injured these players, by the way.
No. Lavia, I'm not sure about. I don't know whether or not that's something that was there before Pochettino.
Because that was one of the things as
it's
well.
It's all
barely played
Pochettino's
under
training
Poch.
methods.
No, I'm just not sure I buy that. And I think that players like Enzo Fernandez, actually, probably you could make the argument that Pochettino did hinder him. And I think he was asking him to do too much, especially if he had a sports hernia. And I think that ultimately is an example. And I think that's where players like Conor Gallagher thrived under Poch because they could live up to what he was asking his team to do. That's why Poch's Tottenham team ultimately was made up of players that could survive what Pochettino was asking them to do.
Yeah. Guys, it's over 500, almost 550 people here. Can we get to 300 likes live back, guys? And also these two guys' channel, along with Tom and Nobbins, are in the description. Can one of the mods please put Rory's channel in the chat and Dan's channel in the chat? They are in the description. So people can go and click on that link. Jay saying Enzo is a luxury that Chelsea can't afford because they're so offensive minded. To play Enzo, you need 2 6s. But that put Palmer out right, which is exactly what we're talking about, Jay.
Yeah, and that's where Marescaa.
But they don't have 2 6s because Lavia's injured all the time.
They get it from Cucurella inverting. That's where Marescaa is finding his extra 6. When he inverts Cucurella, that's where he's found his extra 6. And then we've seen the best from Enzo Fernandez, and we've seen Cole Palmer on the right do okay. Like do not as good as last season, I don't believe, but still be good enough.
We'll see. Jay, W's for my guy Tyler for dropping another super chat, massive super chat. Which is a good segue to Erik ten Hag has more trophies than Arteta. Marescaa could easily be better than Arteta. Interesting. But Tyler, you never think that Erik ten Hag is better than Arteta. Winning the 2 cups doesn't mean he's better than Arteta, Tyler. That's a joke. He's definitely not. I'm gonna leave this here, bud. Thank you, Tyler. Appreciate you. Moving to Arsenal. Guys, can we get to 200 likes at least? 30 likes away to 200. Hit that like button. For Arsenal, there is the Evan Ferguson thing. You said it's not going to happen. There is the Cunha situation. So you think can Arsenal survive then? By the way, you can be 3 points behind Liverpool just by Saturday.
Yeah, they'd have 2 games in hand though. Can we survive? Probably not.
Why? Ethan Onere played well. Don't you trust the youth?
Wanari did play well. To be honest, my main concern is how much we're relying on Gabriel Jesus at the moment. In terms of if we don't bring anyone in. Gabriel Jesus, do I think Gabriel Jesus can play even 7 of the 9 games that we've got this month without getting an injury? I'd be very surprised. Not to say it can't happen. I didn't think Thomas Partey was capable of playing more than 25 minutes anymore, and he's played, I think, the second most minutes of anyone this season for us. But I don't think we're going to sign anyone. I think the Evan Ferguson links are nonsense. They make no sense whatsoever. The Cunha thing, I think, is probably real. We probably have agreed or are close to agreeing personal terms with Cunha, but Wolves won't let their best player go when they're fighting relegation. And they bought him for 40. Didn't they buy him for 40 odd million? So they're not going to sell, he'll be too expensive in January. And I think we'll end up not signing anyone in January and trying to make our way through it, knowing Arsenal.
I actually think you can. Just let me do this couple of super chats. Neto is just a worse Martinelli with a Portuguese flag.
I mean, Martinelli's had a season where Neto will never get close to the output. That's one thing that's for sure. Neto scored Neto's ratio is about 1 in 10.
Yeah, he doesn't score goals.
No.
Even this season, I think Martinelli scored more than Neto this season, hasn't he?
Probably has. I don't believe Chelsea bought Pedro Neto as a goal scoring winger. I just don't believe they did. I don't think that's his profile.
No. But yeah, I mean,
Marescaa needs to try Vega more as well. For some whatever reason, this guy started very well with Chelsea, and then suddenly Enzo Maresca's like, "Oh no, I'm not playing you. I'm not playing you." Even though Cucurella has not been playing amazingly.
I think if Chelsea don't buy a centre back in January, he will be moved to a centre back option. That's what I believe.
We'll see. Back to Arsenal though. Brighton away. You worried?
I wouldn't say worried. I feel like Brighton away is one that in your head you're like, well, that's a tough game. Brighton are a good side, but form-wise, they're poor. They've not won since the 23rd of November. They've not won a game in their last 7. And you look at those 7 games that they've not won. It's not like it was a really horrible run of games. Like they drew against Southampton, against Leicester, against West Ham, lost against Palace. So in that sense, we're in good form. As much as I don't know, there's still an element of negativity around Arsenal at the moment. We're 12 games without a loss. We've won our last 4 in a row. So yeah, I'm confident that we should go there and win. To be honest,
I actually think that this is the game that Arsenal can turn the season around completely. If you win this game away from home, I think this is the game that Arsenal go on a run after. I said that 50% of the job done against Brentford. Now you go to Brighton away, you win that game. I think it changes the fortune of the season. I actually think if you win this game, Liverpool will feel the pressure. Without a shadow of a doubt in my mind. You will start to feel that this Arsenal team are not going away.
Yeah.
One digit.
That's all we can do. All we can do is win our games and try and put the pressure on. And if Liverpool lose a game, suddenly it's 6 points. Suddenly they're 1 extra loss away from it being 3 points, and we play them again later in the season. So, you've got to try and put pressure on. I think it helps, I guess, that the thing is they're going to smash United.
Would you start Nwaneri again on the right side? Yeah. Bench Rice again? Bench Havertz?
Yeah. Nwaneri has to start for me. Yeah, I'd bench Havertz because he's coming back from illness, and it's like, well, even if he is fit enough, even if he's kind of virtually over the illness, just let him fully recover. We've got so many games coming up, and he's going to have to play against Newcastle, or he doesn't have to. Arteta will start him against Newcastle because because he always goes physical. Rightly or wrongly, I actually think sometimes wrongly, Arteta tries to match Newcastle's physicality every single time. So Havertz and Rice will definitely start against Newcastle. Then we've got United in the Cup. Then it's home games against Spurs and Villa in the league. So there's a lot of big, tough games coming up, I think. So Rice can be rested. Arteta said today they're already trying to manage his minutes. Havertz can be rested. And Nwaneri's the closest profile we've got to Bukayo Saka.
Who's going to play it right back? No, Partey's going to play it right back 100%. You have no right back.
I would play Miles Lewis-Skelly there, personally.
Right back.
Yeah, for me. He's comfortable enough on the ball. He never.
Why not Partey and Rice at the 6?
Because I've seen Partey enough at right back. We've played Partey at right back in 4 Premier League games this season, and we won 1 of them, and that was against Southampton. And that's not because Partey's bad at right back. It's because he doesn't really offer anything offensively from right back because he makes no overlap. He makes no runs beyond the right forward, the right winger, which is fine. And so, I'd keep Partey in midfield. Partey was excellent.
Why I completely disagree with you, Rory, for this. I disagree with you. You know why I disagree with you? Because I think moving Lewis-Skelly to the right side, he's a left-footed player.
Yeah, so Matoma's going to cut inside onto his right, which will actually cut into.
I think it will not help him. I don't think he has enough experience to move against a team like Brighton away from home. I think I would play Thomas Partey and Declan Rice. This is the game where you need to risk it. You win this game and it changes everything for you. I think you drop points.
I don't think it does.
No?
I don't buy into it's a game halfway into the season away against a mid-table team. Like, I don't think it's we've got 5 games coming up at home in the space of 11 days. That's where the next 5 games after it is where the season changes, because we've got a Carabao Cup game, an FA Cup game, 2 big Premier League games against Spurs and Villa, and a Champions League game. So all 4 competitions that we're in can be massively affected by the 5 games that we've got after the Brentford game, and they're all at home. So that for me is, it's not, you get through the Brighton game, well done. We've got Newcastle on Tuesday night. Like, but
that's a cup game. That is completely different than the league.
Yeah, but because of the fact that we're 9 points behind Liverpool, we are 9 points behind Liverpool now. Because of that, I think the cup competitions matter. As much as I don't particularly care about the Carabao Cup, the fact is we're in the semi-final now. You've got to take it seriously. So, yeah, I just think there's a lot. If you start looking at games individually and going, that's a big game, this is an important game, I think you get caught up in it. This is just another game that we've got to go and take 3 points and move on.
That's why I wouldn't experiment.
I'll
play Thomas Partey.
Yeah, but Thomas Partey was an experiment that, in my opinion, hasn't been that successful. I mean, factually, we've won 25% of the games that he's played at right back in the Premier League. So, yeah, for me, that is... I'm just thinking Partey at right back with one area at right wing, which is what I would do, the lack of support that Partey offers offensively. I just think Miles Lewis-Skelly's proven himself with every challenge he's had so far for Arsenal. Why not give him another one? Or play Miles Lewis-Skelly at left back and play Calafiori at right back. Calafiori played at right back in the second
even
half
worse.
PSG. He did it against PSG, against Bradley Barcola, kept a clean sheet. So
I think he gets torn apart by Mitoma, to be honest.
I don't see Brighton's attack tearing anyone apart at the moment, Mo.
Has Mitoma actually been that good this season?
Not
been all right.
Great. Like, causes issues, like he's gonna cause his defender an issue because of what the ability that he possesses. That, like, they're gonna have to be concerned about him during a game. But I don't think he's the match winner that he was a couple of seasons ago.
No, not me. So I'm not.
I think Brighton have been found out in recent weeks, and I just think Arsenal won't struggle in this fixture whatsoever.
Won't struggle.
No. They've had 4 draws and a loss in their last 5 games. Like that, they've not looked good. And if we talk about a manager being found out, I think Hertzler may have been found out. Teams are coping with this random, weird brand of football very easily now, I think
they've also got quite a few injuries. Looking at
Welbeck's obviously injured.
Welbeck's out.
Yeah.
Hinchelwood's out. Ferguson's out. Weafer's out. Estupinian was sick this week. There's a sickness bug that seems to be going around like the whole of the Premier League. I saw Postecoglou said a load of Spurs players have got it as well. And Arsenal players have got it. But yeah, so Estupinian was sick. And again, I was thinking, like, would you risk bringing back Estupinian for this game that it's more likely you're going to lose anyway? Or would you rest him for their next set of games, which is like Norwich?
You really think the Brighton manager think that we're going to lose anyway?
Yeah, I think
he would fancy his chances to get a result in this game, to be honest with you.
He needed a bogus red card to beat us at the Emirates, and he was getting slapped in the first half. So I'm confident.
He wasn't getting slapped. You're confident. Gabriel Jesus is one of the things that me and Jess speak about a lot on the show on Thursdays. About this guy, when he gets a run of form, I think he can prove to be very useful to Arsenal. And Arteta need to trust him like he did, even if he doesn't score in a game. Just keep playing the guy as your center forward.
Yeah.
But however, if Arsenal go and get a striker in this January transfer, whoever it is, that hinders Havertz and Jesus both. Because that striker will come in and start right away. Or should you go and get a winger?
Well, winger, 100%. A winger that can play off both sides is 100%. If we're doing anything this winter...
Kudus.
Semenyo. That type of player. But
Semenyo would have to pay an arm and a leg to get Semenyo, to be honest.
But this is why this goes back to why I don't think we'll sign anyone. Because if Bournemouth are fighting for Europe, they're not going to sell Semenyo. Wolves are fighting relegation, they're not going to sell Cunha, even though he's more of a kind of centre forward anyway. West Ham are not out of a relegation scrap. They've just lost Bowen for a few months with a fractured foot. They are not going to sell Mohamed Kudus. So I don't think we'll go and get anyone. And that's just the reality.
You don't think you'll get Marmoush?
He's committed to Eintracht Frankfurt.
Has he really? I think that's crazy.
Yeah. Yes, in the press conference and stuff like that. I think someone was asking him today, and he said, "I'm committed to Eintracht at least until the end of the season."
Is that a PR answer?
Maybe it is.
I as much as Tottenham's got them playing really
maybe.
well this season, and they're in a race for potentially getting Europe and challenging, they're not going to win the Bundesliga more than likely. I think you can't turn down that Arsenal move, and I doubt Frankfurt can turn down the money. To be honest, if they got 50 million put on the table, I doubt they could say no.
But again,
and he's looked good. He's looked really good this season, and I think he fits. He fits what you're looking for. I know you said, Rory, in your video, you haven't watched.
No, I disagree with you completely. I don't think he fits Arsenal at all.
I do. I think Havertz actually is really similar to what Ekatike's been for him. And I think he would thrive around a player like Havertz.
Where would you play? I'm sorry, again?
I think you play him off the left like he does for Frankfurt, but he just drifts inside and kind of has that free role. He's been given the license to roam, hasn't he, in Frankfurt? And he scored so many goals.
But the issue with that is Mikel Arteta doesn't give players the license to roam.
Right.
Mikel Arteta wants his left winger to be stood on the left touchline, which, to be honest, I think negatively impacts Martinelli all the time. But that's where I don't think, like, if I was to see him, I think he'd have to play as the centre forwards, and it would be when we've got Havertz in the left 8, but he pushes up almost as a second striker, and that would be how he facilitated him. But I don't think that's long term. I still don't think that's massively the plan for a lot of games. And then I just think really what you're looking at Marmoush in that kind of sense is just Alexander Isak, but the cheaper winter option. And it's like,
they're not similar though.
Marmoush
likes to drop deep,
they're not, but
dribble.
in terms of the role, as in, okay, because we always look at the way that players can play multiple positions and how Arteta can use, and Marmoush would be someone that would play as a centre forward or as the left side.
He's more similar to Anthony Gordon, Rory. Like, he's more similar to Anthony Gordon that could play up front and on the left than he is to an Isak. To be honest,
I'd rather go and get Gordon.
Oh, so would I. If you gave me the option, I think for a left-sided player in the Prem right now that's proven, it would be him. He's so good.
But either way,
he'd be really good for you.
And also I think Liverpool and City were both interested in Marmoush anyway. So, like, even if he was available, I just don't think Arsenal would push it as hard as City would, for example, this January. So, I don't think. And then the Evan Ferguson loan thing is biggest load of nonsense I've ever heard. Makes no sense on any level for us to bring.
It doesn't make sense for eight teams in the top half of the Prem.
Well, the other teams that have been linked. Well, I mean, Fulham, I don't even think it makes sense because they've got Jimenez and Muniz. Only West Ham, it makes sense because Antonio's not going to come back this season.
And Fulkrug has not started.
It's out of favour completely.
So West Ham, it makes sense. For Arsenal, like, the guy's injured until February. He's not played in best part of 18 months, really. And he'd have to try and get up to speed with Arsenal. Like, he wouldn't be good enough to start until the end of the season, really. So I just don't know why you'd bring him in on loan. It would just, and we'd also, if we did that, by the way, we'd have to cancel either Neto's loan or Sterling's loan because you can't have more than 2 Premier League players on loan at your club. So, and we're not going to cancel Sterling's loan. And if we cancel Neto's loan, that means we're relying on a 21-year-old as our deputy goalkeeper at that point. So.
I actually don't. I think you need a similar profile. I think Arsenal should go and fork the money and get Osimhen.
Yeah, but maybe
50 million, 60 million euros.
Yeah, but
we're
just going to go back for Benjamin Sesko next summer. I'm already resigned.
Osimhen is better than Sesko. I don't know why.
I agree. I'm not telling you what I would do. I'm telling you what I.
Oh, you're telling me what the club
is going to do. We'll go back for Sesko.
Did you see the new link with the Ritugi? I did that a couple of hours.
I don't trust that. Like, he's a player I would not be excited by.
It came out of Italy, didn't it? That rumor, anyway.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. The day I trust a rumor coming out of an Italian journalist, never.
Do you know what, Rory? That's such a good discussion you two just had, and I think that's what people struggle to understand sometimes. Is that you form your point of view off of what you know how the way Arsenal will act, not your exact what you would do if you were in the position, but you understand how your club works. I think sometimes people don't understand that that's where you form those views from. Like if you got given the money that Edu had to spend, you wouldn't spend it in the exact same way, but you understand how their recruitment strategy would work, right? That's why, like, it's more likely that Chelsea go and sign a Liam Delap because of how they've been working in recent years than it is they go and sign, an outrageously good striker.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I hear that so much. I think some people struggle to understand that sometimes.
If Arsenal don't sign anyone, I think they can survive until maybe Saka comes back into February or March. But again, they'll leave themselves very short. If Gabriel Jesus is injured, they're fucked.
Yeah, we're insanely short. We're insanely short. Well, Sterling's supposedly coming back maybe by the end of next week. But again, I don't even know if we can rely on Sterling's ability at this point.
Well, you better have me than Sterling on the squad.
Please don't give him back to us, honestly, please.
Are people still having? You know what? Arsenal fans having hope for Raheem Sterling is the same as Chelsea fans having hope for Reece James to stay fit.
I don't have hope in the sense that I think he's going to come in and revolutionize. It's literally a body. It's someone that at least we could, if we're comfortably 2-0 up against Brighton, I can just bring Sterling on for half an hour to take Jesus off or something, and
to protect your actual assets.
Yeah, basically.
This guy is finished. Sterling, this guy is done.
Yeah, probably.
He needs to go to Saudi or something.
Yeah. So, but the thing is, then it's like, well, how much can you rely on one area in terms of? I think he's excellent, but a 17-year-old is not going to go and play 9 games in January against the likes of Newcastle.
Nwaneri, you mean? Nwaneri?
Yeah.
But you have no option.
Well, that's what I'm saying, though. But that's why I don't think we'll survive. In terms of.
But that's why the club should sign someone.
Yes, but I just know they won't, because they'll look at it and they'll go, we can not even panic. We can go and overspend on an attacking player now in the hope that maybe we catch Liverpool, but it affects what the actual plan is. The club have like a long-term plan, probably 3-4 windows into the future. Maybe not the specific players, but the profile of player that they want. And if someone doesn't fit that profile this winter for the right money, if they risk it and go and bring that player in, and then we still don't catch Liverpool, but then the player that they actually wanted to get in the summer, we then can't afford to get, and you're stuck with this player, I just don't think the club will do it.
And if Rory is correct, and I don't know, like maybe you're correct.
Oh, people will be angry about it, but
Arsenal Football Club are just not beating the allegation.
No, but
people are saying always leave themselves short.
People are saying I'm wrong. Who did we sign last January? No one. Even though we could have done. We had the money to go and do it. We didn't. Like, you can say I'm wrong, but you've just got to look at the history of the club. Like, it's just, and look, there's merit to it in terms of if you've got a long-term plan. A lot of what we've done has been based on that long-term plan, and realistically, it's gone quite well. Yeah, we've not won anything yet, but it's gone quite well. But no, I just think they'll be looking at it. They'll probably look at it in the sense that if we,
I don't know. Can you explain what do you mean? It's gone quite well. What has gone quite well?
Well, we're fighting for titles. We're third in the Champions League phase. Like we could be in United's position or Spurs' position. Like there are ways that a project can go, and United were far more on the end of let's just who's the big name that's doing well right now that we can go and throw those of money at. Let's do that. Oh, this manager wants this player right now. Let's go and do it. Like that's one way of doing it, and you can judge for yourself which way you think's gone better. But we're in second and they're in 14th, so I think that's the answer. For me, I think the club will probably look at it and they'll go, are we likely to win the Premier League this season? At this point, no. Are we likely to get top 4 at this point? Yes. I think we're 7 points clear of 4th at this point, or 5th, sorry. Champions League resumes in March. Assuming that we can get through to the final 16 without having to play in the knockouts, where our 2 games left are against Dinamo Zagreb and Girona, who will probably already be out by that point. I think they'll look at it and they'll go, we'll get to the final 16. Saka will be back. White will be back. We go for the Champions League. We make sure we're in the Champions League next season through the Premier League. we do the summer business that we want to do, and we go for it next season. And people won't want to hear that. And people will take that as if that's what I want the club to do. You have to understand that's not what I want the club to do. It's just understanding how clubs function. That's
the day that
maybe I'll be
Rory
wrong.
is being labeled
Negative.
as negative, I think it's the day that Arsenal
Maybe
should
I'll be wrong.
change.
I would love to be proven wrong. I would love for David Ornstein to announce tomorrow that Arsenal have bid 150 million for Isak. I would love it. But the reality is that it probably won't happen. And that's it.
like if you were sat in the sporting director's position with 200 million in the bank, you would be saying, let's buy Isak now than wait till the summer. Let's go and challenge for the Champions League and the Premier League with Isak now. We add an extra 20 goals from now to the end of the season by buying him. Like, I think if Arsenal didn't spend last January when it was this close and there was a real chance that you could push on to go and win the league, they're not going to spend this January now when it looks less likely than last season.
Exactly. And again, you're not understanding. This is not a reflection of my ambition or of my mentality. This is a reflection of what I think is more likely to happen. So don't tell me to go and support Spurs. Thank you very much.
No, it's a joke. Hi, bro. It's a joke,
I know it's a joke. I know it's a joke. But the point is, like, yeah, it's what I think is most likely to happen.
Yeah, which is kind of baffling, isn't it? When you think about it, like, I think that's Mo. I think you're thinking the same. Like, why would you do that when you're this close? You could challenge, spend the money. It just doesn't make sense. I feel like Arsenal should do it.
By the way, final point on that is that we still don't actually have a full-time sporting director. So again, if you were going to go and gamble big money, you'd also be doing that in the hands of someone that they're not even sure they want to be the long-term sporting director.
Todd Bowley proved how that works as well.
Yeah. So there you go. Yeah. But look, we're going to beat Brighton, and then we'll move on to the next one.
Donna, thank you so much for being a member for 8 months. Well done, Mr. Rory. Beautiful eyes and pure eyes. He's taken, so it's fine. He's taken. But bro, if that happens, okay, let me ask Dan this. Does that give Arteta an excuse then? Context, as Arsenal fans like to say.
What do you mean, as Arsenal fans like to say?
Yeah.
Context is context.
I absolutely...
No, you guys call excuses context.
No, we call context, and we call excuses. They're two different things.
Okay. Yeah, I agree with that. I don't think it does give Arteta an excuse. I don't think so. I think,
in your opinion, he's excused.
I think he's look. I think the way it went at the beginning of this season, I think Arteta made some errors. I think the way he had Arsenal playing, I think he went away from what made them unbelievable at points last season, the season before. I think he slowly started to get that back. Now he's lost Saka. I think there's been an over-reliance at times of Arsenal not being good enough in open play, that they had to rely on set pieces at times. But that's a good string to have to your bow. I just think we saw that Arsenal weren't beating teams in the same way as they've done at points last season. But for me, Arsenal should have been there this season, or if Manchester City, like, no one could predict Manchester City were going to fall off. But if they ever were to, Arsenal should have been the team that are in Liverpool's position, in my opinion. But I also think the way they've built their squad, for me, I've said it multiple times, I just don't think they did enough. If you'd have brought forward their summer business into their January last season, that still wouldn't have won you the league. Calafiori and Marino wouldn't have won Arsenal the league last season if they'd done that business in Jan. I still think they're missing certain types of profiles that just haven't been put into a squad that could make it capable of winning the league. I think they're really close. And I think it needs to happen. And I actually still believe Arsenal are doing... Like, if you look at where Arsenal have been ever, I think this is arguably the most consistent period of time they've had, maybe in my lifetime. Like, I know they've won titles when I've been alive, but actually the points tally that they've been getting and the fact that they're challenging season after season after season, I don't know if Arsenal have ever been there before. Like, in my lifetime, I'm not sure.
Yeah, I mean, very, very early in my lifetime, early, like late 90s, early 2000s, we were there or thereabouts. But no, since then we've been nowhere near it.
That's what I mean, right? So I think this is arguably the best Arsenal have done in the last 20 years.
Well, yeah, I mean, last season we got more points than the Invincibles, scored more goals than we'd ever scored in a season. And I know people don't like the calendar year thing, but like 2024, we outperformed every time. Like the reality is, if you do that enough, you're going to win things eventually. It's just things have just not fallen the right way for us in terms of City go on the most insane run from December to May last year, where if they played anything like they have now, we win the league last year. But it just didn't fall like that. And this year, I think even if we win tomorrow, we'll be on more points after 20 games this season than we were after 20 games last season. Which kind of...
Oh, then you should act in Jan. Like, the board should just learn from last season.
So I think because of how well Liverpool have done, I think it kind of swayed the, how people are reading how Arsenal have done this season. And the fact that we've done that despite having far more adversity this season in terms of the injuries and red cards that we've had, like, I just don't even think it's that bad. It's just whether or not Liverpool will drop off. And time will have to, time will tell.
I think you should go and fork the money in January. That's just me.
But
It's
like,
just me. I know that you want that. But if the club doesn't do this, they give Arteta an excuse to say at the end of the season, we tried, we had injuries, we had context, we had red cards, we dropped so many points earlier in the season, but we recovered and we had a great end of the season and we go again in the same cycle again.
So yeah, but
and it keeps going.
If that's working for Arsenal right now, in the sense that they're still able to challenge,
it's not working.
It's working to the extent that what Rory said. It's working that they haven't won a title yet, but it's working that they're fighting and they're able to keep challenging. They're not falling off and then having a break in the season. They're still there, right? Why is the grass going to be greener if they remove Arteta when
we don't know.
We don't know that. I think the grass is only greener if the board are willing to spend the money now.
Okay, this is me, Dan, in football. Really, and you should, being a Chelsea fan, you should understand this. The grass is never always greener on the other side. It is never guaranteed.
That's difficult to say as a Chelsea fan because for years the grass was greener every time we removed the manager.
But you never knew that. But you always change. Would you ever imagine that removing Mourinho, for example, after winning back-to-back titles? Yes, and you would reach a Champions League final and you get robbed of another final after this from Barcelona. And then a year later, you would win the title with Ancelotti. Oh my God, you remove Ancelotti, you get someone, in 2 years, you win a Champions League. You never knew that. And I think I
knew every time. I knew as soon as I saw how it went with Jose and we sacked him and we still got to the final, the way that squad was put together under Jose Mourinho, the way that he educated those players and the spine that was built, I knew every single time that the players were playing for a manager to be sacked. And as soon as that manager was sacked, we would bounce back because something had gone wrong, even with our best ever managers. And I just knew full well, you can't do that if the squad isn't already built up of winners and the right
also squad is fantastic.
Chelsea's squad managed itself for years, and the manager helped a bit. And I actually believe the only team like that currently in world football right now is Real Madrid. I think they've done it for years. I think Ancelotti just helps a bit, and I think genuinely the players are that good. I even think under Zidane, I think they literally managed themselves. They were that good that they won that many trophies because they knew how to win as a group of players. And now Chelsea are obviously in a different period of time. Arsenal are in a different period of time to what they've been in before. But it's unless Arsenal go and really improve this squad drastically now and in the summer, I still don't think it's going to be good enough because when injuries happen, I think the drop-off is just a little bit too far away from being good enough to win the league. I think
but for Arsenal, though, I maintain this. I don't know if the grass is always gonna be greener on the other side. But I think the squad is so good that I think maybe another manager with a new voice. That's okay. Assuming that Arsenal will not win, can we just say that? Assuming that Arsenal will not win the league or the Champions League. If Arsenal, because I believe if Arteta wins the league or the Champions League, I think this club will actually go places, big places. Actually, I think maybe a new voice will actually be able to even get better out of the squad, get something better out of the squad. That is just my belief. By the way, this is me being an Inter Milan supporter. I'm very used to like, well, you're out of here, get the new guy in until it works. No guarantees in football.
I hear what you're saying, but Arsenal's squad will have its limitations no matter who the manager is.
No,
It'll
they
still
don't.
be-
Arsenal squad don't have limitations if they get a top forward. No
No, they
limitations.
do. They have limitations. Their squad isn't limited to the point it can't get top 4, and it's good enough to challenge. But I don't think its squad is good enough to win the Prem. I think that's why it hasn't done it yet. Because
So my opinion is that they're one striker away from this Arsenal team to be amazing, phenomenal.
I probably buy into that. By the way, if they had a player that was capable of putting up 20 to 25 goals a season, I genuinely think they would have already won the league.
Thank you so much.
I think they
There's
would have done
one piece missing
because
Saka's great, Odegaard is good, Moreno's good, Rice is good,
That's
Partey
what I'm
good.
saying. They're not prepared.
So why don't you think
at
they're
this
giving
moment.
Arteta that player?
Yeah,
I have no idea, Rory, but that's like every summer, Rory. I've been saying the same thing. I tell you what, I think it's him, guys.
No,
okay, Jesus. Okay, let me explain it then. Let me explain it. Jesus with a step forward for Arsenal, by the way. A lot of people hate Jesus. I don't think that Arsenal go from 5th to challenge without Zinchenko inverting and Gabriel just playing some games and all of this stuff. That was a step. Then the problem with him is the 65 million he signed. He chose to bid for Kai Havertz. That money, if it went for another player that is a number 9 that would lead the team up top, I think Arsenal could have won the league last season. Examples
That's him and Edu.
Whoever then. Like for Mo, I don't know who made that decision. As a neutral from outside, at the end, Arteta, Edu, all of them are the image of Arsenal Football Club. You get my point? There is a money that was spent on a striker that hasn't been a striker for Chelsea for 3 years, hoping that he will be able to rediscover the magnificent form he had in Germany. Using him as an 8, using him as a striker the second half of the season, using him as that. If Arsenal went on and got the other guy, the extra one, also it didn't help that freaking Timber got injured the first half he played in that season. That didn't help Arsenal, to be honest.
Yep.
Right? Because we know how good he is now in hindsight. Right? But I think that if Arsenal went on for 70, 80 million for someone, for example, if they went to Newcastle before Isak becomes that magnificent guy now and said 70 million, 80 million pounds, we need that guy. I believe that Arsenal would have won the league last season. I believe Arsenal would have won against Bayern Munich. Arsenal could have had a great season last season, way better.
Maybe.
And it was that one.
That season that we bought Havertz, I can't remember how many games Isak played last season, but given the number of injuries that Isak regularly gets, take
similar,
Isak
Rory.
out of those
Don't
games.
take either. Similar, Rory. Similar. Even someone similar to Isak.
But yeah, but how many of these 80 million
It was Gyökeres who came from a good season before.
If we had bought Gyökeres that summer, people would have lost their damn minds.
Yeah, because what was he at Coventry then? He was at Coventry.
Because we'd have bought him from Coventry off the back of
I agree with that.
Did he only play last season?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So
when we bought Havertz, he'd had a decent
You could have
season
signed
with Coventry.
Osimhen off the back of them winning the league, I think. But
and he wanted to go, he wanted out. He wanted out.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe. But
my point is, by the
did
way,
he want out that summer?
Rory, when you ask me about names, I promise you, Rory, I am not the scout. There are people that get paid at Arsenal Football Club to do this scouting thing for us as fans.
Yeah.
As people that do. Like, they can't go and analyze the market and find someone that we don't know. When Inter buy players, sometimes we didn't know anything about them. And then they come up with that, oh, this guy will be a star. When Bastoni was signed from Atalanta, he was good. But we never knew it's going to be that amazing of Bisek. But I didn't know that Bisek name, guy. It's not my job. There are people get paid at Arsenal to do this job. It's not your job.
No, so what's your point about Arteta? So Arteta's job should be at risk because the club didn't scout a striker because he wants a striker. He has.
No, they chose the easy one on Kai Havertz. They chose the easy option, which is Kai Havertz.
I don't think that's on Arteta's head. I think if Arteta's I don't know the conversations that have happened, but if Arteta's turned round and said, I don't need another striker, I can win the league with Jesus and Havertz, and you don't win it for 3 seasons, and he's continuously said that, then there's an issue, right? But if he's turned around and said, look, they're really good players, but I just need one more, spend the money, and they've turned around and said no, then I actually think he has an excuse. Because he's like, you haven't backed me enough.
I honestly don't even think it's about excuses. It's the case that maybe you bring in a striker that guarantees. I don't think there's a striker in world football other than Erling Haaland when he was signed that guarantees you, like Harry Kane maybe, that guarantees you 20 plus Premier League goals a season. I just don't think it's that.
Can I give you an example, Rory? You
Yeah.
bid for Cisco. It never worked.
Yeah,
It didn't work. For whatever freaking reason that happened, didn't work.
yeah.
There is money there. That means the board were willing to offer Mikel Arteta that money, right? We all agree on
Cisco
this.
wouldn't have been the difference to winning the league.
Yeah, but hold on. Cisco didn't work. Maybe, okay, Dan, maybe Arteta believed that Cisco could have been the difference. Otherwise, they would not have forked the money. It's his belief. It's not me. That money he could have spent on a Marmoush. He could have watched tapes. He could have analyzed Marmoush.
Yeah, but off the back of
Someone
last
else.
season, Marmoush
But why
only had
didn't-
this amount of
Yeah.
this amount of goals. at the end of
That's
last
why you study the player. Dan, every time you sign a player, you study the player, assuming that he will get this amount of
But
goals,
this is
assuming that he
always
would suit me.
hindsight. This is always high. If we'd sat here in the summer and Arsenal had just gone and spent 25 million quid on Marmoush, based on what Marmoush had done to that point
We would
in
flip
his career
shit.
at 25 years old, you'd have been sat here saying lack of ambition. They should have
Yeah.
gone and got a
And-
world class.
But I will be
But
wrong
that's the
now,
thing.
Rory, right? I'll be wrong today, right?
Right.
Okay, but here's the point. Because it's not my job. This is the whole point, Rory.
But it's not
It is
Arteta's
not my
job
job.
either.
There
You're
is
flip-flopping
someone
between
else
it
that
being
would
a-
say,
But you're flip flopping between what Arteta is in control of and what he's not in control of. So
I don't know what he's in
clearly out there
control of. I am
saying-
not inside the club. I don't know, Rory. I don't know. I promise you, wallahi, I don't know.
Well, he's not a scout, is he?
That's
not running
the thing.
recruitment
He's
team.
just not in charge of it, Mo. You know, like Chelsea could have signed Duran, could have signed Omarodian in the summer, and everyone was like, they're not good enough. And then now they've both scored huge amount of goals this season. Actually, our scouts were right. Arsenal scouts are in place to be doing exactly the same. But actually, the two biggest names I heard Arsenal getting linked with in the summer have both gone on to this season and not actually had great seasons in Nico Williams and Sesko.
This is what Highbury Ultras just said. Why didn't they trigger the Nico Williams release clause? Nico
He
Williams
scored one
fewer
goal, 2 goals.
Yeah, he scored fewer goals than Martinelli this season.
Yeah.
And he would have been a release clause. You have to pay all of the money up front when it's from Spain. So it's an insane investment to make. He'd also have become the third highest paid player at the club. And he scored 2 goals in La Liga this season. So
I never
it's
said
not as
it's-
easy.
But everyone
I
would have
never said it's
wow,
Arteta's
Nico
job.
Williams-
I never said it's Arteta's
me.
job. Pep Guardiola says, I want this type of player. And then the club has a job to go and identify 1, 2, 3, 4 targets. And maybe he can choose from them. Right?
Arteta
Because
does the same.
Arteta's a manager. Arteta's not a coach. We all know this. Arteta's a manager. This is what he has a bigger role than a Marescaa or Amorim at Man United. That is my point.
Well, so
Will I put it?
I'll tell you how it works. The way it
Yeah, go
works
ahead.
is Arteta will sit down with Edu, with the recruitment team, or whoever's leading the recruitment team. It's Jason Ato, or it was until he replaced Edu. They will sit down, and Arteta will say, I want a player in this position that can do this sort of job for me.
Yep.
The recruitment team will then go away, crunch the numbers, do the scout. Obviously, you've got scouts as well. They will come back with a list of names or a name and say, this. Now, that might be Sesko because the club are going, we want a young striker that's quite raw that we can bring through, which is why I think we went for Sesko rather than an Osman, for example. Or sometimes, I'm fairly sure Arteta said himself, Jurriën Timber, he had no particular, he'd never asked for that. But the club came to him and said, Jurriën Timber really fits pretty much everything that we currently do, so go and get him. So we did. We lost him for a season. So I think too much gets put on Arteta when it comes to who we sign rather than what we sign. And you can look at the ambition of what we've tried to sign. We tried to spend a lot of money on Mudryk, which told you even then, after a good season from Martinelli, that there was something else Arteta wanted off the left wing. We've tried to sign Vlahovic previously. We tried to sign Sesko, which tells you the type of striker potentially that he wants. So I struggle to pin the blame on him for the identities of the signings that we've made.
So you think
Yes, we
Arteta's
probably
getting the best out of the squad despite Arsenal
Yeah.
Football Club?
Yeah,
Yeah.
probably.
Okay.
Do you think Martin Ødegaard would be any better under a different manager? Gabriel, Saliba?
Maybe. Maybe not.
Look at how he's developed them. Look at the prices that we bought them for. The amount of players that we bought for like under 50 million quid, which isn't even that much these days, that have developed. And that's why when people say, bring in a new manager, I think people massively underestimate how invested these players are in Arteta as a coach, because he's done so much for pretty much all of their careers. I think there's a massive investment in him as a coach. I think you sack him, that'll piss players off. You bring in a new coach, the style of play would change because the current style is completely a baby of Arteta's. I just think it's a crazy idea to get rid of him now and think that it would improve things. Crazy. We do not have, and you, by the way, if you ever actually have a debate with these rival fans that will tell you that Arteta needs to go about the actual quality of our players, they don't think that our players are quality. They don't think.
But
you're
having a discussion with Mo, who thinks Arsenal team is very highly rated. I rate the team very well.
Yeah, but again, how many of those do you rate highly because of the way that Arteta has developed their careers and utilised their
maybe
best
it is,
assets?
maybe it is. Like I think Declan Rice. I had a discussion with Hassan yesterday that I think Declan Rice is better. Is in a conversation with Chouameni, for example, as a DM. I think Saliba and Gabriel are amazing. I think Timber's fantastic. Odegaard has proven me wrong time and time again. Saka's fantastic.
But what I'm saying is,
a lot of good players. Raya is one of the best
like,
goalkeepers in the world at the current moment. Maybe it's...
Yeah, but again, you know, he was the Brentford keeper that no one was talking about as being a world-class keeper when we bought him. I think if you compared it to, for example, a manager inheriting a Real Madrid squad, like the level in just pure ability of the two squads, I don't think Arsenal's at it yet. I think Arteta gets an awful lot out of the players that he's got, and you know,
do you think, Rory, that there was a point this season where it might have been the first time there was a question mark over whether Arteta was getting the best out of his squad? Do you think that's the first time in his like last 3 years?
Yeah, probably. And I think I spoke about it on here in terms of I thought he'd gone too far down the road of control. And do you know what? One thing that even people thought I was being negative when I said that, one thing people said is, yeah, but look, the underlying numbers, like we are offering nothing to teams that we're against and we're creating a bit like the Everton game is probably the best example of that. So I do think there's a point that like he knows what he's doing in terms of, you know, long term, if you limit teams to so little, you will pick up plenty of points. It's just, and this is where that probably striker comes into it, it's just about having that guy that turns a 0-0 against Everton into a 1-0.
Thank you. Last season,
exactly that.
Let's see, West Ham, 5 clear-cut chances. All they needed is just a guy to just hit the ball in the net and then Arsenal winning the league.
Yeah, no, 100%. But I don't blame Arteta for not having that player.
I'd agree with you on that. You actually, the blame would probably go on to Edu. And it would be his job, surely, as a sporting director, to make sure that his manager had everything he was asking for if they're going to back him.
Yeah.
I think Arteta's the type of manager that you have to go 100% all in.
Would you take Arteta at Chelsea, Dan?
The best out of it. What?
If you replace Marescaa, would you take Arteta at Chelsea? Seriously?
Yes, but not.
I'm not saying you would replace Marescaa. If Marescaa walks tomorrow,
I'll take.
Would
Arteta,
you take Arteta?
Yeah, but I think you'd have to change the sporting directors at the same time, because for one, if Marescaa doesn't work at Chelsea, for me, the sporting directors have to go, because in such a small amount of time they would have made too many mistakes. And two, I just think sporting directors like that I'm not sure they'll work for Arteta, because they're so intent on putting a player onto the manager or onto the coach, and the coach get the best out of those players. I don't think Arteta works like that. I think Arteta turns around to them and says, "Sign me this profile."
And they don't do that. Arteta would also say, "I'm not just going to play a young player because you want him to get minutes."
Exactly right, and that's where I think Arteta wouldn't fit the Chelsea board's new philosophy that they have. I just don't think he would. But as a manager, I think he's probably a level above Marescaa for sure.
100%. Mina's asking, did you see the Woods calendar year post? He was gonna cry. I didn't see the Woods post, but I'm gonna check it, Mina. Thank you so much, Mina Habibi. Thank you. GDJ, do we know if Edo left the 180 pages of targets? Is that a joke? I don't know about.
I don't know.
Is there I don't know, JDG. I don't know what that means.
I don't know what the reference is.
I don't know what is that, to be honest. Is there like 180 pages? Oh yeah, I remember now. I know what is he talking about. There was a joke going that Arteta, that Edo has a book of targets for Arsenal every year.
He probably does, though. Surely that's his job, to when he's speaking with his scouting team, to have a dossier and a contingency plan of every single player in the Arsenal squad to have a replacement lined up. And extra additions, because they need to know if a bid comes in or a player gets an injury, they should be aware instantly of who they believe fits in. And football's constantly changing, that players will be generating numbers and stats and evidence that they work for Arsenal system every single game week.
Yep.
And Deal, thank you for the first super chat on the channel. Experiment replace Pep with Arteta as he is now. How many titles does he get? Is the problem Arteta or the checkbook manager? Arteta, Chelsea 2021 until now. I don't understand. Can someone explain this?
He's basically saying if you gave Pep the squad that Arteta's had for the last however many years, would Pep have won titles? The answer is you'll never know.
Yeah, but the answer is yes.
No, I don't think it is. I don't think it's as easy as that. I don't think it's as easy to just go yes with that discussion. I just don't think it is. I'm actually not sure.
If Pep with Arsenal squad was
It's an
going
easy
up
yes.
against,
Then
you'd never see it. No. Hypothetically, if Pep with Arsenal squad was going up against Pep with City squad, would Pep with Arsenal squad beat Pep City squad?
maybe not.
No, I don't think he would. And
If
I
that's
also
the
think
question. No, Rory.
Right.
But if Pep was managing Arsenal team, he would have won that, because I believe Arsenal team is very good.
Yeah, but unless we went and hired Pep Guardiola, whichever manager we would have brought in for Arteta would have been going up against Pep's Man City.
I'm still not sure.
I think Pep with Arsenal squad.
Actually, can I take that back? I actually think last season, Pep with Arsenal versus Pep Man City, Pep Arsenal would win the league.
Oh, I'm not sure, Mo.
I'm not.
Do
sure
you know why?
Because okay, I have a logic for it. Then, okay, I have a logic for it. Arteta is way less experienced than Pep, so he's worse coach than Pep, and he took Pep to the wire, and it took small margin for Pep to win the league. And Arteta, the less experienced guy with less experience, was able to match Pep Guardiola toe to toe till the end of the season. So I believe with a better manager like Pep, who's actually Arteta is a disciple from him, I think would be that team Arsenal would be even better. The logic.
I'm just not sure, Mo. I just don't think that, like, what you're saying is Pep versus Pep. One has the Arsenal side, one has the City side.
Yeah.
I just think that no matter, Pep's Arsenal side would have still not had the edge over what City had, just by a couple of players, I think.
But Pep would be the edge. So how did he match them then? I don't want to go into a second. How did he match them then? Season?
They didn't match him. They got close. If they'd have matched him, they might have won the league on goal difference or something.
We matched him.
Decisions that win 3-6.
We matched him because Arteta's level is really not that far off Pep's level, which again, when you consider how good Pep is, makes it insane that you would suggest getting rid of Arteta.
Do you know what Pep would have done? The difference would be,
I can't get behind that statement.
If you gave Pep the job,
how do you explain it? How do you explain Arteta getting that close to Pep with a squad that 99% of people?
Because he had a very good team, and he was able to get the best out of that team in that last season.
Yeah,
the end of last season,
he's a really good coach.
Yeah. So if you think Arteta's
the team was amazing.
No.
So if you think it's Arteta's team, and if you think Arteta's not even close to a conversation with being at a level of Pep, that means you're telling me you think Arsenal's squad, as a group of players, Arsenal's squad is significantly better than Pep's Man City, to the point where the squad, without the manager, were able to bring themselves to within a result.
Your defenders, all of them would start for City last season. Everyone. Apart from Gavardio on the left.
Yeah, but I think
your goalkeeper would start for City.
No.
By itself would make the difference. Ederson is rubbish.
No, but I'm not sure he would have started ahead of Ederson. I'm not sure that he would have. I think the one main difference for me that Pep would have done different, if Havertz had been suggested to Pep, he would have said no. He'd have said that isn't what I need to win me the league. I think,
but that's not the argument then. But that's not the argument. The argument is, would he have the same exact team for 2 years? I think he would have won the league last season.
Yeah, but
anyway, we agree to disagree, but fine. But I hear Rory's point.
Those players weren't forced upon Arteta. They would have been mentioned, and Arteta would have had to have said yes. No? Because of the role that Arteta has. He would have had to have said, I think Pep has more experience to know that he absolutely has to find people that fit his system. I think Arteta, probably with a bit of an experience, thought that Havertz could work, thought that he'd get Havertz to absolutely the level that Havertz hasn't quite got to. He's done really well with Havertz, by the way, better than probably any other manager in Havertz's career, but it's still not enough. And I think Pep would have had the footballing education and footballing experience to turn around and say, look, I like that suggestion, but it's not enough on its own.
If you swapped, instead of swapping Pep and Arteta, if you swapped Havertz and Haaland last season, who wins the title? So
Arsenal by probably 10 points.
Arsenal.
Right.
By probably 10 points.
Right. And that's Arteta's fault? That he doesn't have Haaland?
Exactly. It's not. No, exactly.
So there you go. So you've got a manager that you think is capable of beating Pep in a league by a significant margin if they had one player swapped from each team. But you want to sack that manager?
Actually, almost the worst thing for Arteta's
you
career,
don't have
right?
that player with fun.
Yeah, Mo. In fact, Arteta would have been better off going to Spain, going to a league where it wasn't being dominated by Pep, being given the same circumstances that he's been given at Arsenal, allowed to build an unbelievable team, and I think he would have had his first league titles. He would have had all this stuff. But I think because Pep was in his way, it's probably the reason that he didn't win it.
See, how good is Moreno? Actually, very polarizing player. I don't think he's polarizing at all. I'm just going to answer this simple. Moreno's a very good player. He played very good last game. And I think he's just been embedded in the team, in the squad. He was injured for the first 2 months. And I think he's a very good player that would suit the team. But
I think he's a good player. I genuinely think because he's a Spanish midfielder, people
want him to do nutmegs and shit like that.
Genuinely, I think people are expecting him to play.
But this is a guy that's formed his career in Germany and the Premier League for his early days as well. Like he's obviously a very physical player that is different to what
he's very composed, bro. Like last game, he's waiting for the right pass. He's not rushing his passes. And Arsenal needed control, and I think he provided it more than anyone else, by the way, on the pitch, more than Partey and Odegaard.
He's got a very specific role in the squad. One of those is winning the ball back high up the pitch, which he won the ball in the final third more times against Brentford than any other player has done in any Premier League game this season. So that's
really
tick box of one thing that he's there to do, which is one of the reasons that we suffocate teams and keep them in. Another thing that he's there to do is to be a box presence to score goals. He did that as well. He's comfortable on the ball. He retains possession. Is he world class? No, but we signed him for 30-odd million to come into the squad. We were
people like to complain, bro. Seriously, he was so good. Like he was just there, and he had no flaws in the game at all. And then people complained, "What did he do? What did he do in the game?" He did a lot of shit. A lot of things in the game.
I think people just, I don't know what people want, but
anyway. I want to thank everyone that watched us. Rory is live at 6:30 today. If you're not live today, you're doing a watch along tomorrow.
Tomorrow, watch along. Yeah, the daily live streams in 2025 are no more. Unfortunately,
shout out your videos, Rory.
Yeah, daily videos instead though. So
daily videos,
they're really good, Mo. They're really good. I have to say that.
Guys, do you have an editor, or do you do it yourself?
No, I just do it myself. I just do it. I basically just do like a mini live stream where I don't reply to anyone or respond to anyone, and it's shorter.
Fantastic, great show, Dan as well. He's got
stuff will be
you're
out. You're
not going to the game tomorrow.
No, I'm not. But we'll be discussing it, and all the content will be out for it for sure. Definitely, we've got 100%. To win.
We've got to win. If you don't win, it's panic station. But listen, people, I want to thank everyone. Yeah. It's panic station then, because you might be, are you going to be like fourth at that time? You're fourth already. Yeah, it's panic station.
City closing in.
Yeah, they are. They're only 4 points behind, actually.
I'm telling you what. You just ask Liverpool fans or Arsenal fans, if City's chasing you, bro, you're finished. You're finished.
Oh, let's
actually, guys, Chelsea, if they lose and Newcastle win, Newcastle will be ahead of them.
Newcastle are absolutely flying at the moment, by the way. Like,
and they're away at Spurs,
flying.
So that's an easy win.
What the Premier League need to do as a top four is dismantle Newcastle. That's what we need to do. Every team in the top four needs to go and buy a player from Newcastle. That's what needs to happen.
Yeah. But listen, people, I want to thank everyone that joined us. I appreciate you guys. It took a little bit long. Always always at the end of the Rational League, we get in a heated conversation somehow, but I hope that it's entertaining. I will see you guys tomorrow on the reaction on MHF. I might do a solo show today, talk about the transfers. We didn't talk about Trent because the fraud was not here. He has internet problems. And we'll see you guys on Monday. Same time, hopefully, or earlier. I will see you guys soon, or later, actually. We're out of here.